Good. Thank you. So, as we saw yesterday, 19th verse, Bhagwan is giving Arjuna the advice that constantly, throughout, always, keep aspiring, keep trying to do what is to be done. But the main practice is, the main struggle is, the main effort is also that main effort turns out to be the main blessing, anugraha. And that is to do your action, but make your mind withdraw from its yearning for results, for fruit, for appreciation, for avoiding criticism, for any type of an expectation. Channelize that expectation to expecting the fruit from the one who is a governor of the fruit, जो देता है, जो दे सकता है. फल देने का अधिकार सिर्फ ईश्वर पे है, ईश्वर के पास है. फल सिर्फ वही दे सकता है. But in avidya, in our states of individuality, expectation is always there with things and people around us, people more than anything else. When we do something, the expectation is of a return from the same source. That expectation from the same source is an attitude directed to understanding through understanding that where I'm expecting from, do they have the power to give anything? And even if they have the power, is that power inherent in them? Is it their power? उनके बस में है क्या? मतलब, do they generate the phal that you are expecting? Even if you expect just an appreciation of your work, Is it in their power? When we say power means they should have the capacity to generate the phal that you deserve as you think. Do they have that power? If you say yes, they have the power. If a rich man is there, of course he has the power to lend some money. But that rich man's richness, that power to lend the money, does it come purely from his own will? Is it his power that he can generate? Lending capacity. Is it his power? No. He gets this power from his karma phal. Why is he rich? He's worked, he's earned it. Thanks to whom? He's got his karma phal. Who gave him the phal of being rich? Ishwar gave him based on his account, karma account. That understanding, when we strive to live with, what is that understanding? There is a natural expectation of our doing that we have from around us in the world, people around us in the world, because we are doing. That itself is a big thing, but we'll talk about that at another time later. Here, that expectation that I have from someone else, let's be logical, based on Shastra Vidya. That expectation that I have, does that person have the capacity to generate the phal of what I think I deserve? Yes or no? No. Correct.
They can, like you've done something and that person has the capacity to transfer that money. He may not want
What are
to.
we addressing? Are we addressing here a Laukik attitude?
No, I know that we are not
So, what is
speaking
Krishna trying to tell us here? That even
that you.
we have to replace our thought. Even if in a Laukik way he can give it to us, he can lend us, what is Karam Yog for us?
That's the knowledge that we are trying to gain for ourselves.
So that asaktaha is what we are explaining. कि मन को असक्त करने का एक रीजन में हमें बैठना है, and that reason has to be based on shastram. What is this reason? Even if laukik drishti I say this rich man has the capacity, I that expectation will disturb me because laukically he is rich. My knowledge in the world tells me he has the capacity to lend money. Therefore, therefore, I'll get angry, I'll get frustrated, I'll have all kinds of complaints as to why is he not doing. My mind will be
So this
disturbed.
kind of a thought can also have dunya ki parak. You can it also comes down to that also, that you have dunya ki parak.
I don't
So then
understand that.
so then your expectations, once you start learning these things, then your expectations naturally start becoming less and less
But
as you get to know the world better.
but that will give you chitta shuddhi.
No, that will not give
So
Shuddhi.
what is the topic here? See, what
No,
are we?
I get it and understand everything. I'm just talking that certain situations in life sometimes cause these kind of things.
That's right. I understand that. Yeah, that's true.
That's
Yeah,
what.
yeah. That's correct. Yeah. But the point here is that's independently right. But the thing is, for those who get disturbed because of asakti to phal, if by laukik means you have learned to overcome that disturbance, that's fine. You will be relatively more peaceful. But Krishna is telling Arjun, always remain doing your karma. There was a question asked yesterday. I'm correcting that question. The question was, in spite of knowing and doing constantly, trying, Divya, your question, that we are attempting for the sake of Ishvara, for Ishwar, but sometimes Ragadvesh is very powerful. That powerful Ragadvesh, what is it that one can do about when that powerful Ragadvesh still interferes? So, bringing it to this, correct, bringing it over here, that powerful disturbance that we have, first and foremost, let's start realigning our framework of thought. What is this framework of thought? Asaktaha satatam karyam karma. The minute my ragadvesh interferes with it and it prevents me or brings up some sort of a disturbance, one reason here is, what am I expecting? And to counter that reason is, we are extending it further. Put that reason, simply train yourself, see yourself. Shastra says वो सच्चाई को देखो कि देने वाले की भी क्षमता क्या देने वाले से है कि उसके पीछे कोई और उसको दे रहा है इसलिए ये भी दे पा रहा है. If I have the capacity to give this wealth to someone, क्या ये कैपेसिटी मेरी ही है सिर्फ, या मुझे मिली है इसलिए हम दे रहे हैं? That means it goes backward and goes up to Ishvara. Ishvara is the Faldata. So all we are saying is, the first step is varam, constantly. Asaktaha is a long process. Okay, long or short doesn't matter. Is a process where I start training myself to depend only on Ishvara to fulfill my expectation. When I depend on Ishvara, I'm aligning myself to a fact. Whether I see that fact today or not, that's irrelevant. The fact will still work, it will still operate. That fact, when I'm aligning to, I'm not dependent on the person, I'm dependent on Ishvara. Bhagwan will give when it is to be received, when I'm due for it. I'm comfortable, I am peaceful. Asaktaha hi. That asakti, practicing it, is one big part of covering the ground of Karam Yoga. Our Ragadvesh is built by our own past momentum, by our own past thinking before having this knowledge. Laukik thought. Just as we said, dunya mein hum, what is the word Neetu ji you just used, which was the right
परख दुनिया की परख.
दुनिया की परख. जब हम दुनिया में रहते हैं तो हम दुनिया को ही प्रमाण मानते हैं, हम दुनिया के व्यवहार को सत्य मानते हैं. उस व्यवहार की दृष्टि से it is natural to have expectation from others around us. And yes, slowly we may learn, but I doubt very much if anybody learns without feeling angry or frustrated or bitter, you kind of force yourself, okay, fine, or resign yourself. That acceptance is not from understanding of knowledge, of a law. That acceptance is more a state of resignation. Okay, you know, दुनिया में भी ये ज्ञान है. Don't expect, I should not expect, I should not expect. But do you know the real reason why you should not expect there? Are you tuned to it? Are you united to that reason? If you're connected to that reason, and what is that reason? Ishwar alone gives. Period. There is nothing more, nothing less, nothing other, nothing higher, nothing lower. Whether I am a follower of Ishvara or not, whether I appreciate Ishvara or not, whether I do my namaskar to Ishvara or not, whether I even acknowledge, whether I'm an atheist, even if I'm an atheist, even when I'm an atheist, complete non believer, who gives me the results? Where do I get my phal from? Where do I get my own comes to me? Where do I get it from? Sukh and dukh, both. It's not just sukh. So when I see that my mind starts to appreciate a law, fundamental, and I stop depending upon things around me, people around me, I become free to continue to do what I'm supposed to do. And whatever comes in the way of disturbance, very slowly, as a matter of practice, with every practice, that raga, dvesh, or ahankar, because they will each combine with the other, दोनों जुड़ के ही आएंगे. राग excuse me, राग द्वेष अहंकार के साथ जुड़ के ही आएगा. So when one will trigger the other, I take that as my practice session. It's an opportunity. And while I do that, slowly, slowly, my raga dvesh will loosen its force. I'm repeating myself just in case. My present raga dvesh, if I find it an obstacle in my functioning of my duty, I must understand my present ragadvesh is because of my own force of thought that I have built because of a previous understanding before I had this fresh understanding. And that previous understanding was more Laukik Drishti. That Laukik Drishti had a counter just to tell myself I should not expect, but it did not have more than that. So I may have managed my ragadvesh, but they were not eliminated. I may not have been suffering, but invariably they must have grown within. Therefore, today, those ragadvesh may become an obstacle because of the strength that I have lent to them in my previous state of understanding. And with my fresh understanding, when I change my thoughts, when I start applying the fresh understanding, means I'd start tuning. Applying means I abide in the new thinking, I abide in the new knowledge. When I start abiding in the new knowledge, fresh knowledge, automatically what will happen? Slowly over a period of time, my ragadvesh starts to reduce. And a time comes when, even if they are there, they don't interfere with my conduct of my duties. I can still do my duties, and the ragdvesh doesn't disturb me, because finally, as we saw in the second chapter, the verse that we saw, your final ragadvesh will only go with Atma Vidya. So far, okay? The second part of this is, because this question can be relevant almost to everybody who is trying to apply Karam Yoga in life, live by Karam Yoga. So I'm bringing it up and bringing it in the context of the verse here itself. Second part is the capacity that each person has. Now, this is not given in the Shastra. This our teachers tell us, and we tell it further. Each person has to function from their own present state of capacity. Our own capacities are limited, our own understandings are limited. The best way is to have a lot of patience with oneself, have a lot of compassion, self kindness, self gentleness, have that approach and understand, have Shraddha in the Shastra Vidya, which is that I'm abiding in the laws. मुझे नहीं पता आज कि ये लॉ काम करते हैं कि नहीं, मेरे को कहा गया है, मुझे समझाया गया है, शास्त्र कह रही है, प्रमाण हम मान सकते हैं शास्त्र को, अगर कोई श्रद्धा मैं रखूं इसके अंदर, I have to decide that. And as per my capacity, this little here and there, as I said, out of 10 times, I may start first with just being one time applying it. My Ragadvesh doesn't interfere. I tell myself, I shift my expectation to Ishvara, or I dedicate this to Ishvara, irrespective of who's doing what, irrespective of what I'm receiving from whom. I will continue to do as my bit to Ishvara. When I start doing that, it'll be one time, 9 times my Ragadvesh will still work. But when I keep continuing, it slowly keeps strengthening. My anchoring in Karam Yoga strengthens. And when I come to 50-50, means sometimes my Ragadvesh works, sometimes I'm able to be in a spirit of Karam Yoga. At 50-50, I start feeling a little loosening. And at 40-60, where 60 becomes Karam Yoga, most of my actions I can dedicate, at least 60% of my actions I can do in the spirit of Karam Yoga. And my Ragadvesh is now fairly handled. That's the time you start feeling a little less struggle, a little more leisure, a little more comfortable. And your Shraddha will grow because by now you are starting to see the results of Karam Yoga itself. Is this much okay with everyone? Because though it is a question asked by Divya, I'm also connecting
No,
it
one
to the
totally
voice.
agrees with that, Dipti. There's no doubt on that.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
As
It's
Shraddha
clear.
increases, your faith, and you see situations in life that change, and Shraddha definitely becomes more and more strong.
Exactly. And therefore the capacity also increases. Now your buddhi has validity. हाँ ये तो करता है. Yeah. And
Yes.
a question another here is abiding in the new knowledge. What does it mean? Abiding in the new knowledge means I identify. You can ask here also, Dipali. I identify. Oh, okay. No, you may ask here only. I identify with the knowledge and live it. A Laukik example could be I read a new recipe. Say I want to bake a bread and I read a recipe. Now, what will be abiding in the knowledge be? Follow the recipe. Abiding in the knowledge. Now, I have the knowledge of the bread making process. I have a new recipe and I can bake a bread. But that knowledge is only there on paper and in my buddhi. But abiding in it would
Practice it.
mean I start,
Practice it.
say, try it out. I start practicing it. What will become finally? By 4-5 times, the first time you bake, if you've never baked a bread before, should you be realistic to say, would you expect it to be perfect as the recipe says, or as the maker of that puts a photograph there and perfect bread they show, and you think, हाँ मेरी भी ऐसी बनेगी. The first time, if you've never made one before, you've never operated an oven before, do you expect that the first time?
No, it couldn't be perfect. It has
It's
to be.
likely not to be correct. It's likely not going to turn out to be perfect. But the fifth time that you try, What will happen? Better
By
than
that
the
time, I think there'll be sufficient experience by that time.
excellent. Sufficient experience is probably the right word. Excellent. It'll be definitely better than the first time.
Yes, of course.
And
Yes.
by then, you may even, by the end of it, you may even better the one who's done it. And then you get the freedom to what? Once you've mastered that
Your,
recipe, you get a freedom to,
your comfort levels get better, so you
yes,
practice better.
okay. So,
So you can make a perfect thing.
okay, you get, so what do you get freedom to? Change the recipe. Excellent. You can now improve the recipe. You can now change the recipe. You can now actually improve further. You can make a better one. That's the principle that applies in Karam Yoga entirely. So, here, coming back now to the topic, he says, see, a verse is important. Why? Because it's a conclusion. He's given Arjun the reasons why he should do his karma. And yes, freedom to experiment also. Absolutely. He's given him the reasons to, he's given him the reasons to say अपने कर्म करते रहो. लेकिन कर्म करते रहने में बंधन तो है, नो डाउट. तो अगर आपको मुक्ति चाहिए, देन अपने अंतकरण में एक भाव को बदल लो. और वो भाव को बदलना आपका पुरुषार्थ है. और उसको कैसे बदलना, वो ये ज्ञान है. एंड कहना इज सो सिंपल. असक्ता इज वन वर्ड. इट्स फैसिनेटिंग. इट्स जस्ट वन वर्ड. असक्त होके कर्म करो. सो बिग डील. कितना आसान है कहना, असक्त होके कर्म करो. When you start saying, okay, asakt hoke karam karna hai, that's where all our demons within rise up. That our demons are our ragadvesh. That Kalia and Krishna, the Nag Kalia, 100-headed serpent, 1,000-headed serpent. Krishna puts one down, another one comes up. So when we start the process of purifying ourselves, that stage, the our own latent ragadvesh also rises up, because we become aware of them, we become conscious of them. In व्यवहारिक दृष्टि, दे आर नो, वो व्यवहार में एडजस्ट हो चुके हैं. It's acceptable. If you have dvesh to someone, you avoid the people. It's acceptable in society to maintain a certain peace in society. Rag dvesh, a certain level is okay to operate. But if you aspire for more, you realize that aspiring for more would mean, how am I to practice this? Because सिर्फ यही चीज है जो आपके साथ चलेगी. And I'm going to make a very perceptive statement. If you have ragadvesh functioning for anyone, especially close people, invariably, one of the ways you can tell yourself to quieten yourself, to let yourself operate on duties without ragadvesh, with affection, with kindness, with your natural state of a peaceful, abiding self of yours, you can do that when you remember that any relation is anyway a bondage in that sense. Any relation is a bondage. Bondage in the sense it's a bandhan. Sambandh hai. संबंध is a good word. Let's bondage scares us. संबंध है ये. संबंध का मतलब क्या है? दोनों तरफ से हम बंधे हैं. संबंध है, ये हमारे संबंध है. That संबंध means there are certain niyamas with which we abide. अब ये संबंध हमारे are coming from somewhere. Past turned हमने अपनी relations बनाए हैं. Always remember, there will be a time when one of us exits physically. What happens जिसके साथ भी आपको राग द्वेष बहुत है, तंग कर रहा है, सपोज डिस्टर्ब करता है, गुस्सा आता है, फ्रस्ट्रेशन होती है, all those things होता है, because of which your negativity takes the peak of Everest. Negativity within you takes the peak of Everest. What happens because of that? If you just remember at that stage that one of us is going to be exiting, do you know how precious this time would be to detangle your raga dvesh? ये तभी तक का वक्त है आपके पास. Whether it's 20 years or 40 years or 60 years, you only have time up to that time to detangle your raga dvesh. If you don't utilize that sambandh to detangle your raga dvesh, you have lost the opportunity if one of us exits the other. Do you understand this? Or anyone who doesn't understand this?
Teaching in terms of love, how would it function?
In terms of?
Like when you were love, like were attached, how do you tell yourself? I mean, do you have to tell yourself that if one of us exits, then we don't have much time to kind of get this knowledge? Is that what it is?
No, if I'm addressing the question that when raga dvesh, that's kind of an independent, I would see it as an independent question. When raga dvesh is interfering with your duty, and I take it that that interference means it's a sort of a negative hindrance. There I remind myself that this raga dvesh has been there from their past. What am I to do now? I have a time, I have an opportunity to detangle it. Detangle it means do the right things in that relation so that your relation gets to a better point, so that your rag dvesh is managed. Now, when it says to attachment, if you have an attachment, you'll have to bring it to the point of a little detachment. That's it. But keep that attachment and graspi, it's necessary. We've kind of shifted a little bit of the topic, but I thought it was relevant to everybody in terms of Karam Yoga. Is anybody not clear? Yes, turning the situation into an opportunity to address your own demons with an understanding. That understanding is very important. That it's a time frame that we have together. It's not going to last forever. हमें आज लगता है सब कुछ अच्छा है, बट कल परसों एक महीने 2 साल बाद one of us will not be there with whom you have your entanglements. If one of you is not there, what happens to that entanglement if you've not detangled it? While the opportunity was there.
You've lost an opportunity.
Turns into guilt and all of those.
So
negative-
what happens to that entanglement? Simple answer.
It remains.
It remains.
It binds you further.
Exactly. First, it remains, even if it remains. And second is, it can bind you further. As you just said, it could be grief, it could be guilt, it could be regret, anything. Frustration. Is that what life is meant for? Is this what Krishna is telling Arjuna? कर्म योग क्यों करो? कर्म योग का कितना इम्पैक्ट आता है? Normally carries forward. Absolutely, it remains intact and carries forward. So is that not a state of samsar? Yes or no?
It is.
Since it's samsar, O Arjun, do you want freedom from samsar or not? If you want freedom from samsar, tasmat asaktaha satatam karyam karma samachara. What samachara? Yatha shastram samachara. Whatever your understanding today is, yes, our knowledge of what Shastra tells us as our roles is fairly lost in society. But that doesn't matter. Whatever your understanding tells you that you understand, Shastra tells you, live up to that understanding. And that understanding will grow further. Right? Okay.
Just a quick question, Jyoti. Sorry, but suppose you're doing a task and that negative thought is coming in your mind again and again. So you should not leave that task because it's your duty, right? Even if the negativity is bothering you, so you let those thoughts go by. I mean, you just don't react. I know it's difficult to say, but you don't leave that task, right? And say that, oh, I'm not going to do this because I'm feeling very negative or something. Is that the right
If
way to go about
absolutely,
it?
I would always say play safe. If negative is what is making me leave the task, that's exactly what this knowledge has just told us, no? अगर मेरे को संन्यास ले नहीं करना, मुझको ये थॉट अगर आ जाता है कि मुझे नहीं करना, वी हैव टू एग्जामिन व्हाट इज द बेस ऑफ दैट थॉट. क्या कारण से मुझे नहीं करना? अगर ऐसा कोई राग द्वेष का कारण है, अगर ऐसा कोई है, that cannot be the reason for me not to do. What do I have to do? I have to handle my raga dvesh. I cannot give up my duty. Yes, sometimes in love, because these are all generalizations. So, specifically, every situation would be different. You have to use your intellect, you have to use your buddhi and govern how you would apply that. Sometimes it's okay to withdraw also. You know, Krishna is also called Ranchod. Why is he called Ranchod? Because at a time, I've forgotten the whole story. Was it Jarasandh? No, was it? That's a different story.
It was Jarasandh, and it was after, I think, 16, 17 times of having defeated him, he would attack again and again and again. So finally, Krishna said that, Bas, I can't keep doing the same thing again and again.
No, that's
Left.
not what Krishna said. So it was Jarasandh, right? Okay, fine, thank you. So he was constantly attacking Mathura, yeah. And at that point, Jarasandh, okay. So at that point, when Krishna realized, they kept fighting back, the Yadava armies kept fighting back, they kept pushing him back, yet he would come back stronger that's the whole story. Yet Jarasandh would come back stronger and stronger every time. At the 17th time or 18th, whatever that number is, Krishna assesses the situation and he realizes that their own army is now at a very vulnerable point. And if they are to take that same stand of fighting with this weak army, their walls were crumbling and economy was failing and etc. because of so much attack. Krishna makes an assessment that the lives of people is very important. Therefore, he advises them to re-strategize, for which he says, let's withdraw, move to a new place. The idea is not that I'm running away. The idea is sometimes I need to make a reassessment of my present situation and my present capacity, my present resources. So sometimes if I feel that my raga dvesh is too much for me and it's interfering, I need not do the duty then. I'm not bound to always, that always is a general knowledge given so that we keep striving for always. But it also means that my present capacity is also to be considered in my struggle to overcome my ragadvesh. And sometimes I have to allow the ragadvesh to function, doesn't matter. But under the supervision of the knowledge, my assessment, I think this time the ragadvesh can go, but it's okay. Next time, I'm strengthening myself. Is this communicable? Understood?
Yes, please.
Yes,
Aisha.
please.
So now he says, everyone I think is okay. Detangling should be my conscious choice. Detangling of ragadvesh might come from fear. No, then that's not detangling. You're entangling in fear. You're entangled by fear. Detangling means I want to free myself. I want to be a freer person, not vindicted by my own ragadvesh. Okay. So in the first line, as I said, he says, I think now it's ingrained enough. Satatam karyam karma samachara asaktahi, remaining asaktaha. Now this is what he's going to go forward because he's giving the reason here. Hetu de rahe hain for the nigamanam. What is the hetu? Many people in the past have attained the Parama Purushartha, Parama goal, which is moksha. Many people have attained that through the initial practice of asaktaha. As I said yesterday, if you're on the right track, if asaktaha is picked up to the extent the mind gains the quality of asakti from the phala ichha, it's very clear asakti is not from people, asakti is not from anything, from phala ichha. Asakti word is from phala ichha. Not that I should not be attached to my children. I mean, that's not asakti. Asakti, that word detached, has confused many people in the name of learning Vedanta. Detachment from relation is not given here. Bhagwan ye nahi keh rahe get detached from Bhishma and then fight. Detach from Drona and then fight. That cut off your relation from Drona and Bhishma and then fight. Is that the teaching? No. Therefore, be very careful in the words when you listen to them and what you interpret and learn from them. You have to learn what is being said, not what you are understanding alone. Detachment word, if you've understood as detachment of relation, question that learning. Is that what it's meant? No. Asaktaha word means asaktaha फल इच्छा से, बस इतनी सी तो है, फल इच्छा से. लोगों से आसक्ति का क्या है क्या? No. Therefore, in fact, if logo se asakti hai, the whole grahast ashram should fall off. Where is the need for it? Where, in fact, I go a step further based on Vedic knowledge. Human beings alone are capable of the finest emotions and relations. What prevents those finest relations in our life, experience of the finest quality of relation, what prevents is ragadvesh. What prevents is ahankar. So when one learns these principles, It even improves the quality of relations. So भगवान ने ये नहीं कह रहे कि अपने रिश्तों से आसक्ति करो. भगवान कह रहे हैं फल इच्छा से आसक्ति करो. अपने रिलेशन में जो आपको एक फलों की इच्छा है, उस फल इच्छा को छोड़ के संबंध बनाए रखो, फल इच्छा को छोड़ दो. So then now he has to give a drishtanta. And what is a drishtanta? That's the 20th verse. Janakadayaha. Neetuji, can you please chant this once? I'll take a little breather.
Yes, yes. Karman eva hi samsiddhim astita janakadayaha lok sangrahamevapi sampashyan kartumarhasi.
Karmanaiva hi
samsiddhim.
Yeah. So
Astita, okay.
So karmana eva hi samsiddhim janakadayaha. That's the drishtant. The example given is through karmas only. कर्मों के द्वारा means कर्म योग के द्वारा here. Karmana means remaining in karmas, remaining in duties, remaining in the station of life that they have acquired by their choice and past karma, by their prarabdham, where they find themselves. उनको निभाते हुए, करते हुए. Janakadayaha, the examples of Janaka, etc. They've attained samsiddhim. They've attained moksha. They've attained the highest, remaining where they are. He, indeed. Who are these he? Purve Kshattriyaha. See the bhashyam. Purve Kshattriyaha. The older generations who were also Kshattriyas. Now Bhagwan is giving Arjun an example of people from his own community, from his own Kshatriyaness, which is determining his duties. So the past, there are people, past Kshatriyas. They are Vidvamsaha also. They are also wise. They were also knowledgeable people. Gnani the wo. वो क्षत्रिय भी थे और ज्ञानी भी थे. Like who? Janakadayaha. Janaka, King Janaka. All of us know him. He was a king of Mithila. Janakadayaha. Adayaha is Ashvapatti and others. Ashvapatti was another king who was father of Kaikai. Now, people having remained in their karmas, and Ashvapatti, father of Kaikai, was an upasaka. Through upasana, he had Chittashuddhi. Janaka was a karma yogi. Through karma yogi, he gained Chittashuddhi, and he was constantly in the company of Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyas while conducting his duties as a king, as a husband, as a father, etc. Ashwapatti, on the other hand, was a Vaishwanara Agni Upasak. As through Upasana, and we all know now, fairly I think, Vedas have given us karmas and upasanas as means for Chittashuddhi. So these people in the past took to do one of them. You don't have to do everything. Chitta Shuddhi can be from any means, as we saw in Upadeshasar also, japa, seva, etc. Karma yoga, upasana yoga, dhyana yoga. You can have Chitta Shuddhi. So, Janakadayaha, these people have attained samsiddhim. What is samsiddhim? Moksha. Gantum means having remained, doing what they are supposed, karmana eva, doing what they are supposed to do. They have attained moksha. Madhusudan Saraswati gives another example, Ajata Shatru. Janaka, Ajata Shatru means there are various examples in the Shastra, in precedents. In law, a very important thing is what is the precedence. You have to also see the precedents. Janakadeyaha, in precedence, you have examples who are Shruti Smriti Prasiddhaha, Kshattriyaha. They are all famous in Shrutis and Smritis. There are stories about them. Their wisdom is expressed. They are taken as examples in Shruti and Smriti. Yog Vashisht, the entire Yog Vashisht, where Rama asks Vashishtha, and you have Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where Yajnavalkya teaches Janaka, and Janaka teaches other students. So you find these stories. Kshatriyaha vidvamsaha api कर्मणा एव सह, अपने कर्मों में रहते हुए, सह साथ करते हुए, maintaining along with, saha should be translated as along with doing their karmas. And here Madhusudana Saraswati gives us another clarity, that saha means what? कर्मों को करते, साथ साथ करते हुए, अपनी ड्यूटीज को साथ साथ निभाते हुए, फला आसक्ति से होते हुए, means कर्मणा एव, न तु कर्म त्यागेन सह, not by giving up their karmas. So when he says karmana eva, they gained some siddhim, natu karma tyagena saha, they gained some siddhim astita. Not by giving up their duties did they get some siddhi. They get moksha. Karmana eva saha. It should be imprinted in our minds for those, as I said yesterday, who are qualified for karma. Karma ke jo adhikari hain, this should be imprinted in us. What? Karma tyag se nahi, कर्मों को करते रहने से. Samsiddhim. What is samsiddhim? Shravanadi sadhyam jnana nishtham asthitaha. Shravana adi is the sadhan. Un sadhan se Shravana Manana Nididhyasan means through constant hearing of Vedanta Shastram. उस मीन से, उस साध्यम से ज्ञान निष्ठा में आस्थित हो गए. Their jnana nishtha became established because through karam yoga they were constantly getting chitta shuddhi, and through shravanam, mananam, they started getting established in jnanam. Jnana nishtha mein sthit ho gaye, praptaha, they gained it. Jnana nishtha, they gained it. There is a story famous of Janaka. There are 2-3 famous stories that come in this context. One is very popular. I'll say both the stories just to convey the point. One story is a shorter story, and which is Yajnavalkya would always wait for Janaka before he started a class. He had a Gurukulam. So in Gurukulam, you have a few students always. And Janaka was conducting his kingdom, so he had duties to do. So sometimes if he got late in coming for the class, Yagnavalkya would not start the class till Janaka came. So the other Guru Bhais and Guru Bahens, all of them, co-students, started getting jealous of Janaka. So one of them decided they are must ask. A teacher is supposed to be impartial to everybody, teach everybody in the same drishti. So why is Yagnavalkya giving preference to Janaka? So one of them asked Yagnavalkya, why do you wait for him? Are we not already enough here? We are the ones who are punctual. We are the ones who are already, and we are in Gurukulam. वो तो अपना पैलेस से आ रहे हैं, हम तो गुरुकुल में रहते हैं आपके साथ, तो हमारे को प्रेफरेंस होना चाहिए ना, हम तो छोड़ छाड़ के आए हैं सब कुछ to learn all this. So you should give us preference. We should be your priority. Why is he your priority who's actually busy conducting his running of the kingdom? There sorry, 1 minute. There he says, sorry, Yagnavalkya doesn't answer. He doesn't say anything at all. And that day again, Janaka got late. He waited. And as he waited, when the class started, someone came running from the city to say that Mithila is burning. Mithila is burning. Famously, Janaka, everybody, all these brahmacharis got up, started running to their respective villages, homes, to preserve whatever they have, see their parents, kya kya ho raha hai, kiske saath, whatever they can conserve. And there are many variations of this story. The idea is Janaka did not move. Pura classroom khali ho gaya. Janaka remained sitting, not blinked an eye in today's language, if we were to say. Not touched. Nothing. Mithila jal rahi hai. And who is he? He is the king of Mithila. What is his responsibility? The highest to all his praja. That's what he's going to tell us very soon. Krishna is going to tell Arjun. As a king, you have duty towards your praja. Janak has duty towards his praja. But in that learning, in that time when Shravanam was going on, he didn't move. And all these brahmacharis go, and sure enough, there is no fire. It was just a test. They come back ashamed, fallen faces, because all that happened was it was proved to them why Yagnavalkya waited for Janaka. Anybody has an answer why? Not those who already know the story, but those who didn't know the story. Why? What does it show in Janaka?
His concentration
Concentration.
on the learning.
Is
on
concentration an adhikaratvam?
A role model.
Role model.
उनकी
Okay.
लगन,
क्या ये सब हमारे
उनकी
अधिकार
लगन।
क्या ये सब हमारे अधिकारित्व में है? लिस्ट ऑफ अधिकारित्व में लगन कितनी है, डेडिकेशन कितनी है, कंसंट्रेशन, इज दैट द
Vairagya.
वैराग्य?
Vairagya.
वैराग्य.
And
Vairagya.
Shamadhamadi also.
Shamadhamadi also. But here, what is that? And his statement is famous. Mithilayam Pradiptayam. There are 2-3 variations of this. Pradiptayam. Mithilayam Pradiptayam. Na maya kinchit. He says, there is a first line also to that. In another story, it comes. And there he says, I have Anantam Vittam. Even though I have Anantam Vittam, Ananta wealth. I have, he's a king of a kingdom. Even though I have Ananta Vittam, na maya kinchit. None of it is mine. Nothing belongs to me. Then he said this line, Mithilayam, Pradiptayam, Pradigdhayam, anything is on fire. Na maya kinchit. Yahan mera nahi. This statement can be taken in a very laukik way. Mera to kuch bhi nahi hai. It's not indifference. Established in Atma Vidya, conducting what he's supposed to do. He sure knows Mithila is not on fire. He has nothing to do over there. The idea is that while doing your duties, when you do your duties in this spirit, there is a Viveka and Vairagyam. Vairagyam also has Viveka with it. तुम्हें तथ्य समझ में आने लगता है, राइट एंड रॉन्ग समझ में आता है. And that right and wrong, even in a situation, you can falsify information. That information is false. His Viveka Shakti is more enlightened than all these brahmacharis who are actually still attached to their belongings. Another story version of this is in Gurukulam, there was one of them, I forget the name again, one of the rishis who was a sannyasi, where Janaka and they as children were learning together. And when Janaka became the king and he took to sannyas, he always would wonder, जनक को सब ज्ञानी क्यों कहते हैं? ये जनक कैसे ज्ञानी हो सकते हैं? He तो has belongings, he तो has a wife, he has children, he must be so steeped in his kingdom. So after a few years, when this thought was still once in a while troubling him, he decided to visit Janaka. And when he visited, he went to the palace. There are again various stories. I'll be stating another version later on, just to drive home all the points. He goes to the palace, and when he goes to the palace, the guard stops him. What do you want? Whom do you want to meet? And he says, I've come to meet Janaka. He says, wait here if you have to meet Janaka. In another story, that person is Shuka of the Bhagavatam fame, Shuka, who gave the story of Bhagavatam to Parikshit. Shuka goes to meet Janaka. So there are two different variations. And the ending is also slightly different. So whoever goes to meet Janaka, when Janaka knows, he says, send them in. To this sannyasi, the guard says, when you go to visit the king, you have to leave your belongings here. And what are the belongings? The belongings, what does the sannyasi have? Whatever his bundle of clothes and this kamandalu, whatever he had, he left it with the guard. And he went to meet with this state. What would Janaka know as a Gnani? He wanted to test him. And there to test him, this is where that story comes to say, Mithila is burning. When he says Mithila is burning, somebody comes and says Mithila is burning. Janaka doesn't waver a bit. But suddenly, this sannyasi starts to as if run. He begins to, as on hearing, he's testing Janaka. He begins to run to save his own kamandalu and clothes. And when Mithila did not irk a bit, he stopped running away and he turned and he says, now I see that you are a Gnani. Because it's not mine that's burning. And that mine doesn't mean to hold Srishti. He knows what is his duty and what is not his duty. And when Shuka goes to visit Janaka, Shuka goes on again, he also has a lot of pride. Shuka was Vyasa's son. And when he came back from being a student of Brahaspati, the god of all, guru of all the gods, Shuka had that little, learned all Vedanta, he'd learned all the Shastram. Shuka had this little pride when he came back home and home to his father, Vyasa, Vedavyas, and Vedavyas tells him, get married. And Shuka goes and turns back to Shuka tells Vyasa, I mean, don't you know? My teacher is Brahaspati, my father is Vyasa. I am a student of, I know all the Vedas, I know all Vedanta, and what is there in marriage and wife, and who's going to get bound? Even binding myself to the sacrificial pole will be better. But once I have a wife and children, where is the freedom? So I don't want to marry. Then Vyasa somehow sends him to Janaka. He doesn't want to go because he doesn't think Janaka is a Gnani. He's a householder after all. He doesn't want to go. But somehow he manages. And when Janaka knows that, oh, Vyasa's son, Shuka, has come, he welcomes him inside. And at the gate again, when he was stopped, he wanted to return back because when the guard says, leave your things here, he wanted to return back. What will he know? Even a guard is stopping him. He has a guard, he has such a huge palace, he has so many belongings. This is what Shuka thought. But when Janaka knew, he called him inside. He sent his whoever the prime adhikari was, ruler was. He sent him to escort him, taken, gave him a lot of atithi bhav. That what is it? Hosting. He did a good hosting, welcoming, complete as a Raja should do. And then Raja asked him, "Why have you come to me?" And he says, "My father wants me to study from you." You know? Vyasa says, "Go learn from him. You have to be his student." And he says, Janaka says, "Sure enough." But he says, "But I know everything, and you're a householder. You have a wife, you have children, you have duties, you have a kingdom to run. Where will you have the time to teach me?" Janaka says, "Okay, I will teach you. I will accept you as a student. But before you do that, you carry oil, a pot of oil on your head, and go visit my entire palace through every room and observe everything in every room. But there should be no spilling of that pot oil. Sorry, no spilling of the oil from the pot. So you carry the pot of oil on your head and go through the palace, every room, observe everything there, and come back." Evening happened. He comes back without spilling a drop of oil. And Janaka starts asking him various questions. What was in that room? What was in that room? Etc. And he knew everything. He had observed everything. All answers correct. Janaka asked him, "Are, wow, how did you manage to observe everything and yet not spill a drop?" He said, his famous answer was, "While I was observing everything, I kept my focus on the pot and the oil." Janaka says, "That is how I conduct my duties." He says, "You see me as a king. I am not a king. I am a servant of that whose world this is. And keeping myself as conducting his, what he has brought to me in my prarabdha, I am only doing that. And as I conduct those duties that have fallen in my prarabdha," he was a prince, born a prince. He was born a Kshattriya. And these are the reasons that are going to come forward in the Bhashyam. That how Janaka, etc., was given as an example by Krishna to show that even while you're conducting your duties in the world, where is your focus? And by keeping your focus on Ishvara, these people gained moksha. They gained gyan. Gyan hi to hai na hamara lakshya. They not only gained gyan, they gained jnana nishtha. They were able to abide in the. So he says, I remain focused in my Atmagyan while I keep observing what is to be done, while my external keeps acting. I am centered, entirely anchored on who I am. So that's where Shuka also realizes you have a grahast holding a house with all the duties and responsibilities. It's not the duties and the it's not the ashram that binds you. It is your attitude in them that binds you. And it is these alone, that situation where you are born, he's going to say it here. I think it is one of them says it, Shankaracharya here it says, when he says in the second line of the verse, therefore, keeping api, also, now it's a new thought force, also keeping in mind, dekhte hue sampashyan, also keeping in mind, loka sangraham, for the sake of loka sangraha, O Arjun, kartum arhasi. You should continue to do what you had to do, what you're ordained to do. That loka sangraham here, if you see the bhashyam, Shankaracharya puts one word, prarabdha karmatvat. And that's a big explanation that Madhusudan gives. Prarabdha karm say we are all born in a position of time and space, in a set of people. हमारे प्रारब्ध है कुछ. And Madhusudan Saraswati will give us, we'll see it in the next class, he will give us quotations, means he'll quote the Smriti, etc., to say, a Kshatriya does not have adhikar in sannyas. A Vaishya, by your prarabdha, if you're born in a Vaishya, means a trader's family, you don't have an adhikar in sannyasa. Only a Brahmin has an adhikar in all the three ashramas, all the four ashramas, which means brahmachari, grahast, vanaprasth, and sannyas. A Kshatriya has adhikar in brahmachari, grahast, and vanaprasth. A Vaishya has adhikar in brahmachari and grahast. Keeping that in mind, Shankara sticks to the stand of saying only a Brahmin has an adhikar in physical sannyas, taking a sannyasa ashram. Mental sannyas is what Karam Yoga gives, and that is irrespective of your ashram, whether you are in grahast or you are taking a physical sannyas. Therefore, remaining where you are, prarabdha karmatvat. By your prarabdham, you may have certain duties that you have to execute in a lifetime. While you execute those duties, you take that as an opportunity. Still, the same way that a sannyasi, physical, whoever wants to go, give up his own duties and say, karma sannyas leke, I will, physical karma sannyas leke, I will do physical sannyas and I will study and engage full time. I can keep my mind in it. क्या आपका अधिकार प्रारब्ध से उसमें है? That is a big question. Whereas later on, certain acharyas have accepted that everybody has an adhikar in sannyas. That is a different matter. And by others, I mean even Sureshwaracharya, who was a student of, means it's others is as old as that also. That all three ashrams have adhikar in sannyas. Different matas. But the point important is for you to decide through the help of these. You decide, मेरा अधिकार कर्म में है कि ज्ञान में, ज्ञान निष्ठा के लिए संन्यास, कर्म संन्यास में है. So the question is कर्म संन्यास or कर्म योग. Is it clear? Is it clear? Yes. No.
Can you specify Karam Sannyas a little more?
What he has been saying over here, I want to give up my duties and I want to take to sannyas ashram. So karm sannyas means मुझे छोड़ देना है, कर्मों को करना छोड़ना है. I want to give up my duties.
So definitely Karam Yoga is what you need to do.
That is what Krishna is telling Arjun. अपना अधिकार आप खुद देखो कि मेरा if I have responsibilities in life, by my prarabdham, where am I stationed? Where am I placed? Yeah. There's so many people who would say they want to avoid their duties, so they'll say, okay, I'll go Vedanta, I'll do etc. etc. There are a lot of variations. But the right way to approach spiritual path is both ways you can become a Gnani. If you have no responsibilities, nothing, you are free to move to physical ashram also because klesh kam hai, definitely. But grahasti mein reh ke, what is the greatest advantage you can have? It is
Practice only.
practice अच्छे से हो जाएगी. And अगर आप successful हो गए तो निष्ठा होगी. He's going to tell him here, if you think Janaka was an agyani, then he was doing it for chitta shuddhi. If you think Janaka is a gyani, then he was doing it for lok sangraha. I know there's so much said in a class. I don't know how much gets followed. I'm trying my best, of course. Is the worst.
See, I have a doubt. I have a doubt. So you said you are not supposed to attach yourself to result, but seek results from Ishvara. But aren't these contradictory then? If I'm asking Ishvara that you give me this and you give me that, isn't that an opposite? Or is it like the first stage when you are trying to, like, move yourself away from result, you need to attach yourself to something, and that has to be like Ishvara.
See, when you ask for results from Bhagwan, firstly, भगवान के पास अधिकार है देने का. I know that. I have faith in that. I have श्रद्धा in that. अगर मुझे मांगना ही है, मेरे लिए बहुत ज़रूरी कुछ है, मेरी कोई इच्छा fulfillment मेरे लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है, Shastra is not going to say you give that ichha up. Why not? Fulfill it through right means. That's all Shastra says. So who should I ask? I can ask Bhagwan. No wrong, nothing wrong in it. He is a फलदाता, तो मुझे उसी से मांगना चाहिए ना. So that is not saying you got attached to phal. The phal that you're already attached to, जो आपको दुख दे रहा है, I'll tell you the difference. They both look alike, I agree. एक चीज है कि अगर मुझे ये नहीं मिलेगा तो मैं ये नहीं, supposing I don't know what example to say.
Is it something to do with survival? Suppose, like, I'm just giving an example, but if somebody who's running the house, right, he is facing some clash, it will have an impact on you also, right? So if you are asking that, he or she's running the family, and I just want that, you do something, fix the situation, so that I can pursue my higher.
हाँ,
So will that?
that's what I wanted to say. Absolutely. If you link it to your higher, you should ask, why struggle? But if you are committed, because that thing may become an obstacle in my pursuit of higher, therefore Bhagwan bless me with it. Give it to me so that I'm over it. Or if some, etc. You understand the spirit. Absolutely correct. Whenever you're asking for any, this is different from saying, I want this particular result, Bhagwan, give me this result. And I'm not making any commitment from my side. I just want him to give me because I want it so badly. Difference is clear? Is that okay, everybody? I would
On
really.
the lighter side, when you want to do the higher, you want your servants in place to sit for the class.
Absolutely, you want everything in place. Very true. Yes. Everything has to run smoothly. The kingdom has to run smoothly for Janaka to sit in the class. That's the dexterity of Karam Yoga. Absolutely correct. Okay, we'll end here and continue with a little bit of this, and the next verse are connected. So now what has Bhagwan started giving him? Personal inspiration. Inspiration, next verse he is going to say. First he's saying, look at your own people from Kshattriyas who have become gnanis while conducting their duties as a Kshatriya. Protecting. And what is the duty of a Kshatriya? He's going to say here, next class we'll take. The duty of a Kshatriya is protecting the people. Here he says, Lokasya unmarga pravritti nivaranam loka sangraha. That loka sangraha means what? Prevent people from falling into lower stages. And why will they fall into lower stages? Krishna is going to tell him, you are a person of, people look up to you, and people learn not through so much by knowledge, but more by example. So set an example to prevent them from slipping away, because if you do not do your duties, others will also stop doing their duties, because Shresht nahi kar raha, to dusre bhi nahi karenge. So we will do that thought later. Anything else from today's class? Anybody has a doubt? Okay. Neeta ji?
Ma'am?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you conclude and then we'll take it up?
Sarvesham swastirbhavatu. Sarvesham shantirbhavatu. Sarvesham purnam bhavatu. Sarvesham mangalam bhavatu. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschit dukh bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Swasti prajabhya paripalayantam. Nyayena margen mahima mahisha. Go brahmanebhya shubhamastu nityam. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Kale varshatu parjanyah. Prithvi sasya shalini. Deshoyam shobhrahitah. Brahmana santu nirbhayah. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
One second. Thank you, everyone. Dhanyavad.
Hariom Deepti ji, thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you very much.